Namaste. Greetings, everyone. My name is Ram Hotep, coming back at you with another episode, another segment, and I'm broadcasting on behalf of 13ScienceAstrology.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This particular episode have a lot to cover, but I'm going to take this information and kind of do it in a short, precise manner and fashion so that you can get the most out of it. It's a lot of information that needs to be covered. I mean, we have a lot of great people out here on YouTube. We have a lot of great different speakers and different metaphysical lecturers and things like that, and healers and researchers and things like that, and people giving out a lot of information, but it's still so much more information that needs to be covered so that we can facilitate and help humanity to make the shift. See, people fail to realize that the shift is constant. It's constantly going on. See, we have, like, as humans, we have this thing to where we process things on a linear level. And if we can't really, and it's based on our reality and how our reality functions. So, like, if we can't really just press a button and within a few minutes get some results, or if we can't just wait in a line and within a few minutes get some service, we have a problem with accepting realities that, aren't on demand, basically, is what I'm saying. We have like a very on demand type of mentality as humans. And when you start looking at a lot of this spiritual information and a lot of this metaphysical information, this is beyond like on demand type of information. Like when you start talking about the shift, you don't just press a button and the earth just shifts and we just suddenly end up in total 4D reality. The shift is a process of reality breaking down and then reality building up. So it's kind of like a process of two things going on at once. So, for instance, you have certain land masses during this shift that will ultimately break down and go up underwater, or go into the ruins somewhere. And then you have certain land masses that will spring up and appear as though they're new. You know what I'm saying? You have certain parts of the world that will thrive during the shift, and you have certain parts of the world that will go into a cataclysmic state based upon this shift. And it's not just the earth changes. You see what I'm saying? It's the people too. Like, it's the people that are located in those particular regions that I'm speaking of or whatever. So what I'm basically saying here is that just because where you're at may not have a particular event that causes some form of a weather catastrophe or some form of so-called natural catastrophe, because I say so-called because natural catastrophes, I mean, come on, we have all type of technology to create weather anyway, but that's a whole nother story. But we do know some places will have natural catastrophes, but then you may be in a place that suffers from a group of humans that are mentally sick and mentally ill and can't deal with the light cold transmissions and the rays and the new energy that's affecting us, and they may go haywire. So you may be in a place like a metropolis or a big city, you know what I'm saying? And as the shift takes place, people can't take it. And then this is where you get terrorism from. This is where you get, you know what I'm saying, sick people, mentally ill people that try to hurt other people because they're frustrated, and that feeds their frustration. Or you have people that want to hurt other people because they want to get a name for themselves and they want to be, this known person or whatever. But instead of doing it in, I guess you could say, in truth, and doing it in the best of spirits and doing it from a noble spirit, they go out and hurt other people and destroy other people so that they can make a name for themselves. So you have a lot of this that's going to take place or whatever during the shift, because the light code transmissions are penetrating humans a lot differently. And that's what I want to go into in this video is I want to talk about the magnetic poles that basically affect humanity based upon magnetism, which is your brain is connected to the magnetism of the planet. So the planet is alive and it has different layers. Like in the last video, a couple videos back, on the video I did about the sun being a generator, I talked about the ionosphere, and that's one particular layer. But then you have basically a magnetic sphere that is basically controlling the ionosphere. So you have a magnetic sphere, and that's what I want to talk about. So this is very important, because this magnetic field is what controls weather on the planet. It controls mental state or mental stability. It controls the waters on the planet. And basically, when you deal with magnetism and water, you already know, like, when the Earth's magnetic field is more heightened, the waters stand up. Like, a lot of scientists know this. They call it the water kind of like rises or stands up. But then when the magnetic field is lower, like during times when the moon isn't full, because during the times when we are in a full moon, the magnetic field increases. The gauge, which is how they measure magnetism, increases on the planet or whatever. So I'm bringing all this up because the magnetic sphere is really what's part of what's causing the shift, and what's going to cause this planet to shift. It's going to be through the magnetic sphere. Now, scientists are finding out that the Earth's magnetic sphere is connected to the solar magnetic sphere at certain points. So basically, what I'm saying here is that you have a magnetic sphere around the Earth, and then you have light traveling towards the Earth. And when light travels towards the Earth, there's certain points where the Earth's magnetic sphere and the sun magnetic, the light of the sun coming from the sun or whatever, the magnetism builds up in certain parts of the Earth at certain points. And I'm bringing this up because this creates portals. This creates portals on the Earth. And this is something that scientists are just now starting to acknowledge. See, at one time when you talked about portals, you would have been called like a sci-fi nut. You know what I'm saying? Because you sit up here talking about some sci-fi stuff, some portals or whatever, some stuff that most people just don't believe in. But nowadays, scientists have found out that the portals exist and the portals are real. Now, all the scientists aren't necessarily accepting this fact, because science even is starting to shift and split. You have a group of scientists that believe this way, the right hand type scientists, I guess you can call them that. And then you have the scientists that are way left, that, you know, want to stay on the left side or the constructive side, or what modern or what historical science says, and, you know, which is all based on Einstein. Pretty much, you have that side of science, the Einstein followers, and then you have those people that are more like Tesla, that were more innovative, you know what I'm saying, in trying to discover different phenomenon basically here on this planet, and not only just discover it, but make it into a technology so it's usable for humanity, so that we can grow, you know what I'm saying, and shift, or whatever you want to call it. So basically, this whole magnetic technology really is what it is, that is surrounding the Earth, is what's causing the weather patterns. Because I know you guys are turning on TV and you're seeing the avalanches, you're seeing the floods. I mean, it's all kind of stuff going on. The weather in certain parts of the country is not really getting warm, and people are wondering what the heck's going on. It's all based on the magnetic sphere, and the poles on the Earth are what control and channel the magnetic sphere for the Earth, and create the magnetic sphere for the Earth. So what's happening is that the poles are shifting. The magnetic poles are shifting. And scientists, they know about the shift of the poles, and they know that at one time the South Pole was the North Pole, and the North Pole was the South Pole. That's right, the Egyptians knew about this, you see. So when they talked about Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, you know, Upper Egypt is really supposedly south now, and, you know what I'm saying, Lower Egypt is north. But during the time when, you know, the pyramids were created, and during the time when that particular sacred site was formed, it was the exact opposite. You know what I'm saying? The North Pole, that's why it's called Upper Egypt, because the North Pole was where the South Pole is at that time. And that's why the Nile flows towards that direction, because that's how it started on the old Earth, or during that time. So when that water pathway was created by different beings, that basically is pretty much how the waters and the magnetic poles were set up. So I'm saying all that to say that this shift doesn't, see, scientists believe that one day we're just going to wake up and the magnetic poles are going to shift one day, and, you know, and everything's just going to go haywire, and it's going to be like on the movie 2012, because that's what the movie 2012 was about. The movie that came out in like 2010, called 2012, and that movie was about the magnetic poles pretty much shifting, because that's what the real life shift, as far as physically, that's how it's going to affect us physically, is through the magnetism. So what I'm pointing out here is that this happens slowly. This is not something, like I said, this is not on demand. This is not something that you just push a button and it just automatically changes, like some extraterrestrials are sitting in some spacecraft and they're going to push a button like do 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 do, and then all of a sudden the poles are just going to shift. The physical poles are going to shift. It doesn't happen like that, beloveds. It takes time. It's not an on-demand reality. It takes light 8 minutes to even get to this planet. You know, and quote unquote our time, because time is an illusion, of course. But I'm speaking on the linear aspect here. So this is the linear aspect because we're still human in these bodies. So it takes time for us to process. See, that's what it really is. It takes time for us to process change and to process the shift. So what I'm saying here is that if we want to start to process things quicker and we want to see changes based upon the shift a lot quicker, positive changes, of course, we have to learn how to move faster and move in sync with the times and begin to process the information a lot quicker instead of fighting amongst each other and doing all this other stuff that's going on the planet. The reason why it's going to be a lot of turmoil during the shift is because humans are not going to come together, accept the shift, embrace the change, accept the change. No, they're going to fight and still try to control their way through the shift. And then it could be a chance that we could lose everything in our wars that we're going to fight against each other. So you need to see the movie Oblivion. And I know I'm jumping around here, but I'm going to get back on my subject, which is magnetism. But you need to see the movie Oblivion, because in the movie Oblivion, it showed that really the humanity ended up becoming extinct on this planet. It had to go to another planet because of the wars and trying to control the shift. So that's something I'm not going to, really talk too much about the movie, but that's something that's very important. Important aspect of that movie is that I, got from that movie is that we can't really make it, if we have this mentality where it's like us against them and we got to fight this or fight that. It's about facilitating the new energy on the planet. Now I want to talk about magnetism on a different level in relationship to sacred sites. And I want to talk about extraterrestrials and how they mastered the magnetic field to the earth, and this is how they would travel to different planets through sacred sites. See, we have this magnetism that starts, the poles, the energy of the poles starts from the core of the earth, center of the earth, and it comes out in a spiral. And this is what creates our poles. So our poles are, you imagine a big ball, which is the earth. Then you imagine magnetism coming out the core of the earth and creating a spiral and turning back in. And this is magnetic energy. This is tetionic energy. This is several energetic fields and layers that are a part of our earth. So we only see, like when we think about the earth, we just think about the land and what we walk on, the trees and stuff like that. But we fail to realize that the earth it has a magnetic field, it has a gaseous field, it has different fields or whatever. It's really like a ball of gas, So, and there's different sites here on this planet Earth that, channel, or that, I guess you could say, that channel this energy differently and create what's called portals that goes to different parts of the universe, or some people say different dimensions or different star constellations or whatever you want to call it. But basically what happens is that these extraterrestrials, they would choose certain parts on the planet that they knew was, I guess you could say, channeling this magnetic energy a certain kind of way, and they would build underground, and they would build sacred sites like pyramids and things of that nature, and they would build underground and as well as on the surface. They would build sacred sites that line up based upon the magnetic field, which will create certain portals. And scientists are finding this out now, that there's various different portals, like I said, on the planet. And they're finding out that you can put particles into these portals. And these portals, again, are when the magnetic field of the earth meets the magnetic field of the sun. You could put particles into these portals, and these particles can travel and get 93 million miles away from this planet, which is how far the sun is. These particles can travel and get there within the speed of light. So it can take these particles 8 minutes and some seconds, 21 seconds, to get from the earth to the sun through these portals. Very key here, because extraterrestrials and certain beings of light, this is how they travel. They travel through these points, these portals. And this is why NASA is doing so much research because there's an extraterrestrial field around our earth right now. That's right, an extraterrestrial field around our earth. And based upon the magnetic field breaking down, it's causing new type of beings to come to this planet because of the fact that the magnetic field is breaking down right now. And I failed to mention that, but the magnetic field is not what it was 10 years ago. So what's happening is that the light of the sun, they think that it's the ozone layer being decayed because of global warming and people driving around in cars. And that might have a little bit to do with it, but that's not what's really going on here. It's really the shift. And the magnetic field is breaking down, and now the light of the sun is starting to have a direct effect on humanity. And that's good for certain extraterrestrials. So you got to remember, certain extraterrestrials, they have a conspiracy going on to basically destroy the ozone layer of certain planets, and this planet is the next planet they want to do this with. And the reason why they want to do this, because they don't care nothing about humans being protected in the ozone layer, because they know we're created from 75% water, so we need like an ozone layer to protect us here. This is why we're here, because of the ozone layer. And they know that if they deplete this ozone layer, the radiation will start to affect humans a lot more. And this is why a lot of humans are going crazy, is because of the radiation. But this is a form of technology for them, so they're not just doing this as a sick joke. They're doing this because this is a form of technology, and this creates more portals. You see, this is what happens whenever when the sun, now more portals are created. And this is creating a new field, an extraterrestrial field around our Earth, so that space travel to and from this planet is becoming a lot faster and a lot easier, and new beings are able to come to this planet because the Earth is shifting. So there are new portals opening around the Earth all the time, new gateways from different star constellations for intelligent life to come to and from this planet. Now, the sacred sites are very key in really understanding this whole shift thing, because if humanity is going to make it through this shift or whatever, we are going to have to go to the sacred sites that our higher self and our souls are attracting us to. There's going to be many places on this planet that are not inhabitable because of the magnetic field. Again, certain parts of this planet were built to only be sustainable based upon the magnetism and the energy during the time when they were built. But then a lot of these places are breaking down. So you're seeing a lot of places like Chicago, Illinois flooding. And there's mounds there. There's mounds close to Chicago, Illinois. So we know that Chicago is a sacred site. Chicago, Illinois is close to a sacred site because it's close to the Cuyahoga Mountains. So all of that is a portal. All of that's a portal. And what's happening is that since the magnetism is breaking down, it's causing the energy and the spirals to rotate differently. So you have two types of spirals. A spiral can rotate masculine, like this, or it can rotate feminine, which is the other way, like that. Masculine or feminine. And I know it's hard for you to see this. I guess I have to probably put up some diagrams or something like that to show you the spirals. But there's two ways that energy can spiral, and this is what basically is creating the weather patterns. Is the energy coming from the core based upon the magnetism, and the spirals are working differently. So this creates different patterns on the planet based upon the geography of the planet. So what's happening now is that the only places that are going to be inhabitable as far as on the surface once this thing really goes down is places that are along the equator, because places that are along the equator are least affected by the Earth's magnetism. They're least affected. So a lot of people, they're talking about they want to move, and they're feeling internally that they need to be somewhere else. Everybody's feeling this, and it's because that's the Earth talking to you. Remember I said the Earth is alive. So she's communicating. Moya is communicating with you. Tiamat is communicating with you and letting you know, like, look, if you want to make it. But of course, we don't listen to it. We call it intuition or just insight or hindsight or our gut. But we don't realize it's not your gut. It's not just your intuition. It's actually the real life planet talking to you, telling you, look, if you want to make it, you better get from where you're at and go somewhere else. Now, this is not a scare tactic. It's not a scare tactic because remember I said the shift, it is gradual. So it's not meaning that you need to turn this video off and figure out somewhere to go because the earth is ending. I'm saying that it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better in certain areas because the energy is changing. See, remember I told you guys that the ancients built mounds and pyramids in certain places that are not along the equator in different sacred sites to keep the energy in check and to keep the energy in control. Just like the concept of feng shui. The concept of feng shui is if you don't work with the energy in a room and control it, then it's going to work against you. So the ancients knew this. So they built certain mounds called the feng shui of the planet. They built certain mounds in certain places because they knew that the energy, like they had to control the energy and operate within the mechanics of the energy so they could live in these particular places. But what happened now is that energy is moving differently in those places now. So either humans that live in those places are going to have to create a new way to channel the energy so that it gets in control again, or they're going to have to move from those places. And most humans, see, we don't know anything about energy moving in spirals this way or spirals that way. So we don't know, like, energy is created. There's different types of ways energy flows. You know what I'm saying? And the way it flows is how it's going to manifest for us here. So now that the energy and the spirals are moving differently, these places where you had mounds at that the ancients were able to put in check based upon them building certain mounds, they were able to check this energy called archonic energy, or the energy of the ancient ones. They were able to check the energy. But what's happening now is that this energy is moving differently, and those mounds that were built thousands of years ago aren't really working anymore, because the mounds served a purpose. Like I said, they were to help the energy to operate in harmony with humans through the process of feng shui. So what's happening now is that people have to either move, like I said, or begin to do rituals and begin to get into earth feng shui, which is taught in the Vedic system a lot. I'm studying it now. It has a name, and I can't remember the name for it, the Sanskrit name for it, but it's called earth feng shui. It's the process of building structures. Not just like feng shui is really when you work with energy in a room. You know what I'm saying? You work with energy in a room that's flowing, you get that, you control that energy so it works for you. But then you have earth feng shui, which is when you work with the outside structures. And somebody will put it in a note to correct me and tell me exactly what it is, because I have a lot of good followers from India. But this earth feng shui helps you to build structures in certain directions, north, south, east, and west, certain angles, so that light and tectonic energy will flow through this particular civilization a certain kind of way. So you got places like New York, you know what I'm saying, and places like LA. Like when we built these cities, we didn't know nothing about earth feng shui. We didn't build our cities to align with earth feng shui. We didn't think about that, you know what I'm saying, because we didn't know nothing about that at the time. We didn't know how to really build, you know what I'm saying, like the science of building. You know what I'm saying? Like the science of building goes into sacred geometry. And most of the builders that built this country, a lot of these cities, you know what I'm saying, they didn't know nothing about sacred geometry. Now, before that, like Washington, D.C., that city is set up on sacred geometry. I mean, certain cities are set up on sacred geometry, but I'm talking about the buildings. Like the city itself and the way it's laid out, that may be set up on sacred geometry. Like D.C. is set up based upon a cipher and goes into like some deep sacred geometry, and it's aligned with, I think, the Cancer constellation. That's how Benjamin Banneker Bay built DC, when he built DC. But certain other cities came after, like this knowledge was lost, and we began to build differently. So like a lot of cities like New York are built on top of other cities. Native American cities, you know what I'm saying, that were in existence, they built a lot of these cities built cities over cities. See, there's cities up under the earth. They're finding them all the time. And these cities were built based upon the sacred geometry of the earth. And a lot of times, if you get into building based upon the sacred geometry of the earth, you'll find yourself building in building in places that are under the earth and in the surface of the earth, because that's what's going to really happen. Like the earth, energy of the earth is going to get so violent, and the magnetism is going to get so chaotic, so thrown off because of the poles shifting. And you know what I'm saying, when the poles shift, that creates different magnetic fields, which means those sacred sites that were good before are thrown off. And then new sacred sites will have the potential to be created. But ultimately, humans may have to build up under the ground and build in the surface of the earth to protect ourselves from the radiation and just all of this. I mean, we got over I think it's like 10 billion electronic devices floating around on the planet right now, computers and stuff like that. This is creating radiation on top of radiation. Then we have the radiation already coming from the sun, and we already talked about how the magnetic field is not protecting the earth anymore as much, the surface of the earth. So now we're going to have to learn how to build within the center of the earth. We're going to have to learn about tectonic energy. We're going to have to learn about building in alignment with the feng shui of the planet. So it's just a lot of missing arts and sciences that humans are going to have to master. And this is why I'm saying that the information, in order for us to really make the shift, we're going to need the information to make the shift. So I know that I myself, I made over 300 videos, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I'm going to have to definitely put out more information and make more videos to spark more thoughts and more minds out there to want to make and facilitate the shift and make the change on this planet, so that enough humans will make it. We know there's going to be casualties. We know a lot of humans aren't going to make it, but we want to take as many people on this journey with us as possible. And the only way for us to make it is through processing information quicker, beloveds. We got to get through this information and process it a lot quicker. And that's myself included. So those people that are students, you have a job, which is to study more. You need to study more on just different topics on metaphysics and stuff like that, so it can start to make more sense to you. And those people that are teachers and students, you need to up your learning so that you can put out more material and more information and more videos, because it's just a lot. There's a lot that needs to be said. There's a lot that needs to be done so that humans can make the shift, because we're only going to make the shift. This is the information age. Remember that. So a lot of people think we got to make the shift. We got to fight these beings. See, everybody has a different way that they think the shift is going to be facilitated. Some people say, "Oh, we're going to fight and we're going to slay all these beings or whatever." And then some people feel like making the shift is just moving to another city, and that's going to help you make the shift. Or some people feel like ain't no such thing as a shift. What are you talking about? Ain't nothing happened. Well, we all still here and the world's still going on. But you don't turn on the TV. You don't look at the weather patterns. You don't feel the changes in the weather and how it won't really get warm in certain places anymore. You know what I'm saying? You don't see how people are becoming more and more lost and not having less and less direction. And this is because the magnetic field is connected to your brain. You know what I'm saying? So when that magnetic field melts down, it's causing a lot of lunacy to take place, a lot of scattered thoughts, and people, we don't have our center and our chi. See, to make it through this particular shift, you're going to have to connect with the ethers of the planet and connect with the earth through tetionic energy. So it's like your thoughts, you know what I'm saying, may be off point. You're going to have to go more with your instincts. You know what I'm saying? So like a lot of people, they're caught up into their thoughts too much, and they think it's a lot of options, and it's not. It's not a lot of options. You need to follow your instinct a lot of times, because that's connected to the tetionic aspect of the planet. You know what I'm saying? Your thoughts, like I said, I always say this, your brain can deceive you. Your brain can deceive you, but your instincts, beloved, that's what's going to help you make it through this shift. And a lot of you have instincts and you know what to do. This is how animals function. They function off instinct, and they know where to go because instinct is locked into the planet, the group, your soul group. Your instincts are tied into your soul group. So if one person, your soul group, is feeling a certain way or goes through something, you're going to feel it. And you're going to know, okay, it's time. I got to make a move. I got to do something. Like something's wrong with this person. I need to pick up the phone and see what's going on. That's called instinct. It's not paranoia. That's your gut. Follow your gut feeling. So saying all this to say that the shift is going to be, I mean, it's a lot. It's not a one day thing. It didn't just end on December the 21st, 2012. You could turn on the TV and see that really 2013, just like as predicted by a lot of people, 2013 is really the first year to really kick off this real live shift and this real live so-called end of the world type of energy. This is the first year for the 7-year tribulation that's talked about in the Bible, which is really going into a whole nother metaphysical concept. This is the year when the ancient ones will begin to come back to the planet. So I myself have a lot of information to put out. I'm going to be putting out a couple of videos talking about the quarantine a lot more too, and helping you guys to understand the quarantine and exactly what's going on with that. Because as I said in the video that I did about the quarantine, I think it was last year almost, I talked about a certain date that I was given that the quarantine would be officially lifted and the ban would be officially lifted and certain beings would be able to come back. And this is happening like right now. So when you really research the magnetism of the planet, you research the different portals that are created through the magnetic sphere, this is beings and intelligence coming back to the planet. They're surrounding the planet. And see, their form of warfare is mental. Their form of warfare is mental. I know you're like, war. So are they a war against us? Yeah, in a way they are. Certain beings are, because certain beings feel like we're abusing the planet. They don't want us to have the planet anymore, so they want to take the planet from humans. And I'm a humanist. So I'm on the side of humans. I want to see humans make the shift. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to see a group of extraterrestrial beings come here and overpower us, but I know that in order for us to make the shift, we have to align ourselves with certain beings that have a little bit more intelligence so that we can make the shift. And the only way to align yourself with certain beings that have a little bit more intelligence is by going to certain sacred sites that connect to certain star constellations. Because different sacred sites, like for instance, Egypt connects with the Orion star constellation and the Sirius star constellation in certain parts of Egypt. So certain sacred sites, based upon the energy that flows from that sacred site, based upon the way it was built, connects with different star constellations. So when you start talking about your soul group and you want to know more about it, you may have to go to a certain star constellation or a certain sacred site to learn more information about your soul group. And you're wondering, well, where should I go? Well, what is your instinct telling you? What is your instinct telling you? Because remember I said follow your instincts. If you're attracted to a certain place, it may be a sacred site. It may be a sacred site. You need to research it and find out if it's a sacred site. But at the bottom line of what I'm saying is that if we want to survive and make the shift, it's going to be based on us processing cosmic information a lot faster. And the only way to do that is to move to places that are more in alignment with constellations that are agreeable with us making it, with humans making it. You know what I'm saying? Like certain places, certain beings, like these new beings that are coming to the earth, a lot of these new beings that are coming, it's not in their best interest to see humans make it, like a lot of the beings from Andromeda. I mean, you have certain agreeable beings from there, but a lot of the energy and the entities and intelligence from Andromeda, when you research it in the star records, because this is where I get this information from, you can research the Akashic records and the star records to find out about different groups. You'll find out that the beings from Andromeda, they don't really too much care about humans making it. They're warrior class. Their whole thing is to be able to use the planet for more so for resources. Like that's what they want. So it's different groups, different type of ET groups that have different agendas. You have some beings from the Orion group that are now coming back and trying to help humans. See, the Orion group was like the bad guys at one time, and they were called like the beings that wanted to control humans. But then you got a certain group from the Orion group that's coming back now saying, okay, we're going to help humans. But you can't really get into none of this if you're not connected to your sacred site here on this planet, so that you can get the information that's for you, so that you can channel this energy properly. So if it's a lot of stuff going on where you're at, a lot of cataclysmic activities, and you have the ability to move, and it's in your gut and it's in your instinct to move, maybe you should move. Maybe you should move, because that's what the shift is about. I mean, like I said, moving is not the end all be all, but it's definitely something that I believe, you know what I'm saying, will help a lot of humans to get on the right path to making a shift or whatever. Because I mean, being in certain cities, you're not getting any cosmic information in certain cities. You got buildings blocking out the sun in certain cities. Certain cities are not inhabitable. Like I said, really, ultimately, everybody needs to get on or near the equator, because this is where the magnetism will affect the center, the surface of the planet, the least amount, basically. I mean, you'll have some parts like in North America. North America is going to be affected because it's above the equator. But when you get below that equator, along that equator, it's warm, it's hot, but at the same time, you'll be protected. So that's going to do it for me. My video just on magnetism and the shift, and let people know that it's still in full effect, and what we got to do to make it to get out of this situation or whatever. So hope you learned something from this video. Shoot me an email if you have any questions or comments. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to shut this video down, in peace, love, and light.